Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Dragon Prince, Season 2, Episodes 5 and 6. We're doing 2 today, yeah. And the reason is because, well, obviously, we haven't done Dragon Prince for quite a while, and I do want to kind of start getting caught up with some of these things. Um, Obviously, we've gotten up to date with other stuff. We've gotten other stuff back. We got Free Season 1 finished. So I want to get a little more caught up with this. There's 9 episodes of this season, um, and we're moving on to episodes 5 and 6, yeah. So next time we might do 7, 8, and 9 all together. I don't know. We'll see. But last time we left off, there were pirates. Well, a pirate and his pet parrot, who was really useful because the pirate was like blind because he had both of his eyes gone. I think it was like something like, oh, his left eye was taken out in a sword fight or something, and then his right eye, he doesn't know how he lost it because whatever hit him came around from the left. A joke regarding all of that, and I thought it was funny. But the bird actually is very good at navigating and allows him to traverse the sea pretty freaking well. Um, they stop on this island because of a storm, and Callum tries to get himself electrocuted. Actually, he's trying to forge a connection with magic. I don't remember what it's called at the moment. He's trying to forge a connection with the magic, and yeah, he's not really understanding how to do anything. um, but he ends up giving up, and at least for now, and they're just going to move on with their journey. Um, it did seem at a moment, like for a split second, that Oz was going to be in trouble, the dragon. Um, but because it was struck by lightning, but then it's like, oh, no, no, no. This thing can handle that. And it was made very clear, yeah. Um, so yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with these 2 episodes. The like shadowy, like the shadow elf creature, whatever it was in the mirror that Viren was spying on, was trying to teach him to do something, and he ended up rejecting it, and just putting the thing over the mirror again. He had been trying so hard to get the mirror going and to figure out what its secrets were, and now he's just rejecting it, even though this person on the other side, this shadow elf creature, that's what I'm just calling it for now, um, was trying to teach him some, I don't know what, but I don't think he knows. And maybe that's why he decided to step off. Because he didn't know what it was trying to teach him, so he just wanted to be cautious. But he put the cover back on the mirror, and I think maybe he might be done with that for now. But I also think that is going to come back, that his curiosity is going to get the better of him. In the meantime, he's also sent out letters to the other kingdoms and stuff, against the orders of the council and all, and is basically going behind their backs and shit to try and start a war against basically non-humans, everyone who's not a human, um, because he's a racist piece of shit and needs to just fuck off already. Seriously. Um, but yeah, so that's gonna be interesting to see where that goes. Honestly, at this point, I just hope something gets to him. I just honestly, he needs to like either be imprisoned or killed. I don't give a shit as long as he's not. As long as he's got no connection to leading the kingdom anymore. No one needs this. Just no one needs this. Um, and Amara, I assume, is going to be on her way back now that the, I guess, infiltration or whatever they were trying to do at the like, I don't know, volcano or wherever it was. Now that that kind of didn't go according to plan, um, I assume she's going to be heading back, and that means she's probably going to find out that her advisor, her translator, is chained up in the dungeon, she's not going to take that very well. She's also not going to take it very well when she finds out that Viren also sent his own children to take care of the princes, and yeah, it's going to be obvious why. So yeah, that's going to... I really want to see the outcome of that. I mean, honestly, I would love to see Amara take him out. I would love to see that. Even if it causes him to just flee from the kingdom for the time being, I just want to see him gone. And I would love to see Amara be the one behind getting him gone. Hell, I would be fine with her killing him, but I don't think she would. I think she would want him to face trial at the least. But yeah, I'm excited to get back into more of this, and I hope to have a lot of fun with these 2 episodes. So, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and it fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts, and will contain spoilers to the episodes. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. Okay, and we are back, and we'll begin the spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. Sorry, it's like, it got really dark. Like, I had the brightness turned up quite a bit, and it still got really dark. It's only 4 frickin' p.m. It is 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and it's this dark. It's so fucking overcast out there. Like, holy shit. But anyways, so before anything, I thought of something, and I want to kind of address it real quick. So, in the LGBTQ plus community, there's this thing that people tend to hate with representation. A lot of people in the community tend to hate when LGBTQ plus characters in media are killed. And the reasoning they kind of bring it up is like, oh, it's like you're going to have LGBT characters introduced just to kill them off. And it doesn't feel like proper representation because of it and all that. And I've always understood that point of view, but never completely agreed with it. In my eyes, it depends on a lot of different factors, such as what the show is about, who the characters are, how they die, all of that kind of stuff. In this kind of situation, I could completely see people whining and bitching about these 2 queens being killed off. The same, well, okay, not the same, the second episode after they're introduced, the episode after they're introduced, but being killed off basically right after they're introduced. Granted, to be fair, they were already dead. It was a story from the past, but you know what I mean. And kind of giving across that same, again, feeling, that same idea of just them being introduced solely to, well, in this case, already be dead. To kind of just be used as inspiration for a character. Basically have these LGBT characters introduced kind of as a plot device. I can see people are making that argument. But my view on it is different. Because again, you have to view it from the perspective of the show, the characters, and how they died and stuff. These 2 queens were warrior queens. They, like pretty much every leader, it seems, in this world, the kings and queens, they will fight and go on quests and stuff as well, which I like. I've always liked leaders that fight alongside their followers, whether it be evil people or good people. I like leaders who are not only able to fight, but do actively fight alongside those who serve them. So, seeing this world having these kings and queens fighting alongside those who serve them is great. It's fantastic. Now, these queens were warriors as well, and they went on this quest to actively for the reason of fighting and killing a magma titan, this giant monster made of rock and magma. That was their literal purpose for going on this mission. So they knew it was going to be dangerous. And again, considering who these queens were, they would probably go on missions like this. Not necessarily always to Zadia or to the Zadian border and everything, but they would go on missions like this, I presume, often enough. Dangerous missions that could result in their death. And in the end, their death was because of a sacrifice. They chose to go in to basically draw the attention away from the dragon so that everyone else could escape. They were acting as literal decoys, which, again, they would have known could have led to their deaths and did. Um, and then Viren went in, surprisingly enough, to try and save them and all, to try and get them out of there. But then when they died, he was alone, and so the queen went in, and then she ended up dying trying to save him. And so it's like, but going back to the point here, these were characters who, by design, even before they died, you knew had that possibility thrust upon them. Just because by design they are, warriors. They are ones who, again, would clearly go on these quests and would put their lives on the line for their people. And they died sacrificing themselves so that all these others could escape and in the long run use the heart of the Titan to be able to save all of these lives, 100,000 lives from both of these kingdoms, and possibly more. They sacrificed themselves in a very beautiful display of love for others. And I think that is actually an extremely positive thing to show for representation of the LGBTQ plus community, to show these two lesbian queens giving their lives to save hundreds of thousands of others. That level of self-sacrifice, that level of just love is just, it's amazing in and of itself. But when you're combining it with the representation for the LGBTQ plus community, it's showing the community in a very positive light. Yes, the characters do die in the end. We acknowledge that. They do die, and we kind of wish they wouldn't, especially since they were awesome characters. But we also don't want to see characters in the LGBTQ plus community, we don't want to see them killed off. We want to see them live and thrive and be happy. Of course we do. But if we're going to see them die, it's like there's no better, more positive way to do it. And honestly, I think it shows off just how amazing of characters they were and how positive of characters they were because of this self-sacrifice. It allows them to really shine and really gives a positive outlook on the community, showing that, yeah, a lot of people in the community are like that. A lot of people in the community would be willing to sacrifice themselves for those they love. It's a very positive thing. So I just wanted to bring that up first and foremost because I know that there's going to probably already has been, considering this has been out for a bit, that there already has been, I'm very sure that there are people in the community complaining about this. That there are people who are going to bitch and moan about LGBTQ plus characters being killed, especially just after being introduced. But I've said it before, when I want to see representation in media, when I want LGBTQ plus representation in media, I don't only want the happy endings, basically. Excuse me. Knew that was coming. I could feel that coming. I don't want only the happy endings. I don't want only absolute 100% positive stories. I want to see LGBTQ plus characters who have issues. I want to see them fail. I want to see them die. I want to see them be bad guys. I want true representation for the LGBTQ plus community, and that means on all ends. I don't want to just see like, oh, they live happily ever after and they survive, they're happy, they're positive, everything's good. I don't only want to see that. I mean, sure, I do want to see it, but I also want to see characters who are LGBTQ and evil. I want to see characters who are LGBTQ and have a lot of issues. I want to see them die. I want to see them not come out happy and positive in the end. I want to see all of that because I want to see true representation. I want to see it represented in every way. And I've seen a lot of different cases of this. I mean, you could almost kind of consider the Butt Witch from 12 Forever as kind of non-binary. I think one of the people who worked on the show even said that they kind of considered her to be non-binary. Now, I've always called her ma'am because what is his face? Her servant says. I can't remember his name. Big Deal. That's what Big Deal always calls her. He calls her ma'am. So I've always called the Butt Witch ma'am and used she, her pronouns, even though she's voiced by a male voice actor and all. But I'm not going to get into all of that. The point is, I want to see representation from all angles. And I've seen a lot of different angles of that, especially with Carol and Tuesday. That's shown quite a few different angles just in that one show. So these two episodes focused basically on one story. It's actually kind of fitting that I reacted to these two together because they really connected. So there's really two halves of this story. And the first half is going to be a lot easier to talk about, so I'm going to just mention it real quick. And that is Callum. Callum is reading this letter from his now deceased stepfather, from King Harrow. And it's basically just this nice little letter saying, oh, I love you, I've always loved you, I know I'm not your real father, but I've always viewed you as my son. Stuff like that. And it's like, oh, I'm going to tell you these secrets and stuff, and I'm going to tell you, oh, it's a lie about, like, oh, you shouldn't live in a way people expect you to. You should live the way you know is right, stuff like that. And it's like, oh, I left this cube for you, which we see he already found and all. So it's all very cute and nice, and we see that the cube, it was actually planned for Callum by his father. Most of this is, in a way, kind of to move Callum along. It's a way for him to just fully accept his stepfather's death and move on. And it was good. It was very good. We also saw a bit of other stuff happening on the ship, such as Rayla talking to the sea captain. We saw that Ezrin and Zim, or Ozymandias. That's why I was calling him Ozzy, like at the beginning, or Oz or whatever. But the nickname is Zim. But Ezrin and Zim, while sleeping, are like imitating each other somehow. I don't know if there's like some kind of magical connection between them, but they're like just kind of imitating each other while sleeping and having the same motions and all, which is interesting. And all of that was all well and good, but the true meat of these two episodes came from, of course, Viren's story. So Viren goes to meet with the other leaders, the other kings and queens of the neighboring kingdoms. And they meet in a completely neutral location. They're not allowed to bring any weapons or anything with them, which I like. I think that's actually a really smart concept. So Viren meets with them, and when he goes in, almost all of them are there. Like two of the other kings, one queen is there. And he greets them all, and they're not really given a lot of focus. But then they make point that, oh, there's one missing. And then she comes in, and she's this young girl, like, what, 10, 11, 12 years old, something like that. And she comes in, and Viren makes a point to be a just complete and total fucking asshole. And it's like, oh, basically he's practically saying like, oh, shouldn't you be in bed? Where's your mommy? And it's like, oh my god, I just hate you. Can you just like, can you just jump into a hole and die? Um, but seriously, like he's being so fucking condescending to her. Um, and she shows a lot of wisdom, a lot of patience, and just she shows herself to be just fantastic. Um, but so Viren tries to convince them all. He shows them this kind of presentation um, with the Moon Shadow Elves and stuff. Um, and he's trying to convince them to, of course, go to war with Zadia, basically, to attack before they're attacked. And he uses kind of these tactics to convince them by like talking about how the Moon Shadow Elves came in and killed the king, how the Sunfire Elves are like at the border preparing to invade or whatever. And we had seen them before with Amaya. But yeah, it's just like he's using all these cunning words and ideas and everything. And everyone's on board, but only under the condition that everyone else is on board. Because see, the other three leaders, the two kings and the queen, they all of them say like, "Oh, I'm on board, but only if everyone else is." And all three of them say that. So it gets down to the young queen, and so her entire thing ends up being, "I don't know, I'm not sure yet." And so Viren, to try and convince her further, decides to tell a story. And he chooses a story that is kind of a dick move to choose because it literally is partially about her parents' death. And it's kind of a dick move to like, oh, I'm going to convince you. And it's very clear that's why he was telling the story. I'm going to convince you to agree to my side by telling you about how your parents died. And that's like just terrible. But it's also kind of a nice thing because, as was shown, she appreciated learning more about her mothers and how they were just amazing and beautiful and just so great. um, but yeah, so he tells the story to try and convince her, and the story basically centers around how both her mothers, the queens, as well as Ezran and Callum's mother, well, Callum's mother by birth and Ezran's stepmother, how she died as well. How both she and the lesbian queens died. And so the story is basically like, oh, their kingdom came to King Harrow's for help because they were running out of food and their people would die. King Harrow decided to help against the advisement of Viren because Viren's a fucking asshole. Um, and he decided to help and give them food. But as the winter was approaching, uh, both kingdoms were still having trouble. And so Viren thought of this plan to go slay the Magmatites in order to gain its heart and use it for a spell that would bring kind of this warmth and everything to the kingdoms so that everyone would be able to grow food, everything, all the land would be fertile enough to grow food, all of that kind of stuff. And King Harrow was for it, but his wife was not. She kind of looked at it more in an empathetic light and was thinking more about even the Magma Titan itself, which really didn't seem to come into play much. Admittedly, it's like they didn't actually go that route with the Magma Titan seemingly. I mean, it definitely was alive, but it's not like they went into a route to have it like be sympathetic or anything. Um, but either way, he ends up going with it anyways, and she comes with him just because she wants to be there with him and support him nonetheless, even if she doesn't agree with it. And of course, the other queens and even Amaya go as well. So they cross the border into Zadia and get to like this magma place right there, and they fight the Titan and defeat it. In the process, Amaya gets wounded, but otherwise she's fine. She just gets a scar. And everybody heads back. Viren suggests they should leave the wounded behind, but King Harrow won't hear any of that because he's actually, a good person. So they head back, but as they're nearing the border, it gets too late and the dragon arrives. And so, as I mentioned before, the queens choose to distract the dragon, end up getting killed. Viren actually goes in to try and save them, but he ends up getting in danger, and so King Harrow's wife goes in and tries to save Viren. She ends up being killed. Although, again, I'm kind of thinking maybe she could have made it out of there, and that Viren left her behind on purpose to save himself. I mean, I'm not saying that necessarily did happen. I'm saying I could believe it happened. But either way, Viren made it back out with everyone else. All three queens were dead, and that's basically the end of the story. They used the heart. They brought the warmth and fertility. Everything worked out on that end. But yeah, overall, the story was this really good part of this series. It was not only just cool in terms of its action and its story, its characters and all, but it actually felt like a fitting fitting plot point to have here. It felt like it really fit in with this point in the series. And I like the fact that in the end, the young queen still refused Viren, and the other kings and queens, the other kings and the other queen, refused him as well in the end. And he just kind of threw a hissy fit. And basically just threatened them as well, which, yeah, not really a good thing. Also, I mean, we obviously know he's still lying about being regent and everything. But yeah. So all kinds of shit going down. But these two episodes, yeah, it was basically two parts of the same story. They were the same thing, just in two episodes. The same story, the same focus. So again, it just worked out exceptionally well that I ended up reacting to both of these. I really enjoyed them. I enjoyed the new characters we got, the queens and their young daughter, who is now the queen. I enjoyed seeing younger Amaya and and King Harrow's wife, who I don't think we'd actually seen before. I'm not 100% on that, but I don't think we've actually seen her before, and if we did, it's only been very briefly. But yeah, it was cool to see her. It was nice to have a little more development for King Harrow, even though, like I said before, it doesn't really fix the problems with his death, and especially with it being off screen. I think that was still poorly handled in the first season, but nonetheless, it was still nice to get development on him and see just how good of a person he was. Granted, we already knew he was a good person. We did. But we really got more to that in these episodes. Yeah, I would say these are probably two of my favorite episodes of the entire series so far. I just really love the story, the characters, the action, the morality differences between pretty much everyone in Viren. Seriously. It was just a really good set of episodes. It built upon stuff that we had already started to introduce. It had introduced stuff that I felt really worked. And also, just real quick, on that topic, Going back to the LGBTQ plus representation with the lesbian queens, it didn't feel forced. I didn't really bring that up before, but there's a lot of shows and stuff where they'll introduce an LGBTQ plus character or characters, and it just feels like they're forcing it in just to have that representation. It's like, oh, look at us, we're having LGBTQ plus characters. Aren't we cool? Aren't we in with what's popular? That's what it sounds like a lot of the time. I mean, that's definitely what it was like for Voltron. That is definitely what it felt like with Voltron, with Shiro being gay. It felt like a complete just cop out. Like it's like, oh, you guys want LGBT characters? You want uh, Keith and Lance to be gay? You want Pidge to maybe be bi? I have heard that, by the way. People did want Pidge to be LGBT. At least some people did. I have heard. Um, but it's like, oh no, we're just gonna make this character who there's really never been any precedence for it. We're just gonna make him be gay, and for no real reason, and never actually do anything with it. We're just gonna have him be gay just to appease you. That's what it felt like. But here, it feels more natural because, again, no one ever calls attention to it. It's never made like this big deal of. It's never like the scenes are never framed in a way that makes a big deal out of it. Like when they're first introduced, when the queens are coming into King Harrow's court to appeal to him and all, they just come in. There's never none of the framing of any of that scene is done in a way to make it like super focusing on the fact that these are two lesbian queens. No, nothing ever focuses heavily on that in the scene. The most like heavy focus they get in terms of that is when they kiss, but the moment when they do makes a lot of sense. It's a very just big, successful, happy moment. And again, it doesn't make it feel artificial. Like the framing of the scene, the framing of that moment when they kiss and all, the framing of just how everything goes makes it feel natural, makes it feel like it's just who they are. And that's what we want as LGBTQ plus people. We want this representation to be integrated so much into the world that it feels natural, that it feels like it's just part of this world. No one questions it. And that's what they did in this show. No one questioned it. No one brought it up. Like nothing was made of it at all. It was just a natural part of this world that there were these two queens who were married to each other. And they have a daughter. That's awesome. That it was just that natural. So yeah, I really love how naturally handled it was. I think it was really positive, which also kind of fuels towards my argument of this being positive representation. Um, but yeah, overall, I thought this was great. These were two very good episodes. Like I said, I'm thinking next time I might do the final 3 episodes of the season all at once. I don't know for sure. I can't promise anything, but we'll see. I'm kind of thinking I'm going to, but again, can't say anything for absolute certain. Um, but yeah, that's maybe I guess you could say a plan. I don't know when I'm gonna get to them. I again can't promise anything on that. Because as you know, we do have the unscheduled format with reactions. And there's plenty of other things I want to get to. So, and at this point, it's already the 22nd. I have to get to pre-recording the Halloween special for next week as well. So there is that too. So yeah, there will be more coming for sure. But in the meantime, thank you all so much for tuning in. And tell me in the comments below what you thought of these episodes of Dragon Prince Season 2. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. If you want to check out any of my social media links and more, please check them out over to the side. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, please leave those down below. In the meantime, though, thank you so much once again for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.